afternoon. We've seen today and in the last 2 days, computers revolutionized several industries. Well, I'm here to tell you the story of computers and cars getting married. It's underway, and that's going to change the world's third largest industry, ground transportation, which is over $5 trillion. I'll translate that for you. That's 5 trillion euros. All right. The changes that we're going to see are dramatic, and I'm going to look at several pillars of change, but the most important one isn't monetary at all, and the reason people started into this was actually to save lives. We can do this because, let's face it, human beings are not tremendously good drivers. Every year around the world, we kill 1.2 million people. That is like one of the world's greatest diseases, but it's done by us. In the United States, the number last year was about 38,000 people dead, and the American Highway Safety Agency put a cost on that of $870 billion. Now, divided out, that works out to about 29 cents a mile or 16 euro cents a kilometer, more than the cost of the fuel, the gasoline, benzene, whatever, in your Hummer. More for your share of accidents than for the fuel. In addition to that, my number calculated for Americans is they spend 50 billion hours every year doing this. To put that in context, the entire productive labor output of the United States is about 240 billion hours. So it's an astonishing number. Now, across the pond, your numbers are much better. This is actually a pretty decent country, about 640 people killed, but far more frightening to every Dutch person is the fact that 162 cyclists were killed a couple of years ago in car accidents, the thing that everyone's afraid of. Now, the numbers can be reduced because alcohol is involved in a lot of these accidents, and actually robots very rarely drink, except for this Mexican robot shown here. We also are giving over our cities and our lives to cars in a way that we become blind to. More than 25% of the energy budget of Western countries goes to transportation, 25% of the greenhouse gases. Now, that's only a worry if you live in a very flat, low-lying country that's below sea level. The rest of the world isn't really too worried about greenhouse gases. But my favorite number I calculated is that the whole human race every year drives around 1.7 light years. How many of you use light years in your work as a unit of human activity? This just tells you how big it is, how much driving is, and why everybody is in the game. They are all trying to build it, all the car companies and half the high-tech companies. The first car company to put something out this year, Volvo, will put 100 cars in the hands of Volvo customers around the ring road around Göteborg in Sweden, and another 100 in Britain, and another 100 in China, because they're now a Chinese car company. And you probably also know that this car, the Tesla, about 18 months ago, the owners of this car woke up and found it had a software update that gave it an autopilot function. It's not a full self-driving car, but nonetheless could keep itself in the lane as it went down the road. Tesla has much more ambitious plans and hopes to have something that's fully automated in a very short amount of time. But what's remarkable is this just showed up as a new feature one morning, like something on your iPhone. This is how cars are starting to look. Now, the Germans are actually getting very involved, and they're among the leading companies, both Daimler. This is a prototype made by BMW. They showed at CES. Now, BMW, you know their slogan, right? Freude am Fahren, the ultimate driving machine, they say in English. A company that sells joy of driving builds a prototype which, if you look in the back, has a bookshelf in it, as though it's a living room rather than a driving machine. This is the different thinking we're now starting to see and have to see. Ford's gone even further and said this self-driving car that they will release in around 2020 will not be for sale to customers. It will only be sold for taxi fleets. You will not be able to buy that car. There's another German car company, actually, though, that has a problem in telling customers, trust your life to our software, why would we lie to you, after all? Now, the truth is that scandal may actually be, in a way, good for Volkswagen because they're having to rethink their company, and every car company has to rethink what they're about. This is a French vehicle that's actually been for sale now for about 3 years. So if you think this is science fiction, it's coming someday, maybe my kids will see it, these vehicles are out there now running people around campuses and running on regular roads, not very fast, not very fancy, so it's able to go out today, but not science fiction either. These vehicles are running here in the Netherlands. In fact, last year, all the transportation ministers from Europe met in Amsterdam to sign the Declaration of Amsterdam to get all the laws changed in Europe to make sure this is possible. And there's a small company that's going to have a self-driving taxi service running in Eindhoven sometime starting next year. So it's happening everywhere in the world, even in the Netherlands. So it's happening in China as well. This is Baidu's car. Baidu is the Google of China, the search engine. You'll see a little bit of pattern about search engines as we move along. And this is the world's #1 car manufacturing country. Not everyone knows that. That's where the automobile industry has been moving. And there are startups galore. This is just a handful of them. What's disturbing is that 4 of the startups you see in this screen are now unicorns. They have billion-dollar valuations, even though none of them have products or have come out. Some of them have already had their exits at near billion-dollar valuations. Very disturbing. Now, another company that is in this space is Apple. But Apple is very secretive about things. They do not reveal what they're doing. They've gotten a few permits, so we know a little bit. I have learned one top secret thing about the Apple car. Nobody tell anyone. It will only work if you have a new iPhone. So, you know, people laugh. That might not be a joke. So, the #1 company, though, is still Google or their new unit Waymo. And I worked on this car, so I have a bit of bias. But they've now done 4 million kilometers of real driving on real roads with these vehicles. This is more than everybody else put together and times a few. So they have been at it for a long time and have a very smart team. They've done 4 generations of vehicle. I want to show you a video, actually, of their 3rd generation vehicle, which is a bit radically different.
Cute.
Good Lord, look at that.
Go ahead and buckle up.
Okay, Annie, here we go. All right, Connie, let's go. There's no steering wheel in the way.
Other side.
So if I had a self-driving car, I could spend more time hanging out with my kids or helping them with their homework, even just tending to them, finding out how their day was and not having to wait till you get home and have dinner and all that. So it'll be good.
No steering wheel, no brakes, no gas. That's not even the most remarkable thing about it. 2 weeks ago, Google announced that they will actually have a service for families in the Phoenix, Arizona area using their 4th generation vehicle, which is based on a more traditional minivan. And these families will be having their kids go to football practice, the parents commuting. This is going to be operating this year. It's already operating with the family you see in the picture. Another company, though, to pay a lot of attention to in this space is Uber. And the reason is this. I believe that the automobile industry, the transportation industry indeed, is about to change from being about selling vehicles, which is what it has been for 100 years, to being about selling rides. That's why Uber is an interesting company. Uber has already established in just 6 years the #1 brand in the world in selling rides. And that's a nice position to be in if this is what that becomes about. So in Pittsburgh, you can now go and order an Uber, and there is a chance that what will show up is this one, which will have a computer drive you around. There'll still be a human being supervising it. But nonetheless, this is already in play. And not just Uber. It's not present here in the Netherlands, but Uber's main competitor is a company called Lyft. And last year, General Motors put $500 million into Lyft. General Motors also spent $700 million to buy a small startup called Cruise, which was making self-driving cars. It had never made a car or sold a product. It got $700 million. I advised them when they were getting going. I didn't get any equity, damn it. But nonetheless, General Motors, the world's 3rd largest car company, is spending billions in a panic because they think they are too late. They are worried that the world will escape from them, so they are going to spend billions. They didn't do an exclusive deal because Lyft just did a deal last week with Google to partner on how they're going to compete with Uber, because you may not have heard this, but Google and Uber have now become enemies on this space. So the numbers are huge. Millions of lives, trillions of dollars, billions of tons of CO2, all up for grabs because of computers. Programmers are really going to change the world here. Now, on top of I want to show you inside the vehicle, the 3rd generation vehicle. And you mentioned the woman saying there was no steering wheel. What else do you notice about the dashboard of this vehicle? It's not there. All right? Google doesn't think, so you don't want to have a fancy sound system in your car because your music is already in your pocket, in the device that they or Apple make and sell to you. All of these things we're used to thinking about in cars may vanish when they become more like living or working spaces, as this vehicle presages. The other favorite feature I have on the Google vehicle are these wing mirrors on the side. It doesn't have a steering wheel, it doesn't have brakes, but it has to have wing mirrors. Why? Well, because regulations say all cars have to have wing mirrors. Step into the future which Uber has taught us a bit about, a future of mobility on demand where you pick up your phone, you say you need to get somewhere, and within seconds, a vehicle pulls up to take you there. If you're working, it may have a desk and a screen. If you're with friends, it may have a couch like this one. It takes you there on the roads we already have without changing the infrastructure. This is a very important concept stolen from the internet and moving into transportation. Stupid roads and smart cars. But the intelligence at the edges, that's the way the computer works, and suddenly the pace of innovation is huge. A vehicle that can do this does 4 big things for us. Drives you around and keeps you safer. Delivers cars to you. Cars become a cloud of transportation, which can come to you when you need it. These vehicles can refuel or recharge themselves, and they can store, or what we used to call park themselves. Those last 3 have big consequences, not just for cars, but for our cities and how we live. To energy in particular. Today, as I mentioned, the car industry is built around selling cars. People go into car dealerships and they ask, what car do I need for my life? And you know what they buy? They buy something like this if they ski 3 times a year. And what do they do with it? They go and get a liter of milk at the store. It has 5 seats. They ride in it mostly alone. But when we change the car industry question from what car do I need for my life, for all the things that I do, and we change that question to what car do I need today, suddenly all the economics change, and you don't care what's under the hood or how full it is or how long it takes to refuel. All of that is worried about by the robot, by the people who run the fleet, not by you. This changes the energy of transportation, and the oil industry is now completely up for grabs as well. So if the car industry wasn't enough, there's far more to do. Robots don't care about the convenience of refueling. I calculated that if the United States were to switch its urban transportation to electric vehicles, small electric vehicles, as this could enable, it would no longer have to import oil. Now, have you noticed something about the Americans? They have this really annoying habit of going to war over the oil that they import, right? Wouldn't it be nice to break them of that habit and to drop another 200 million tons of CO2 from the output? Again, only a worry if you're in a really flat country that's below sea level, so don't worry too much. You heard earlier on today, if you were in the room, about Moore's Law, a law that we preach all the time, which has changed the computer industry and has been going on now for 50 years. It's actually over 50 years ago that Gordon Moore came up with that observation about how everything was doubling in his industry every year to 18 months. Well, the industrial world has no idea of this. Even in the computer industry, we're a little bit baffled by what to do when everything gets obsolete so fast. The industrial world is going to be completely blindsided, even though some of them are in the room listening to me say this. They will still be blindsided by the idea that the computer is going to become the most important part of the car. Not the engine anymore, not the leather seats and the cup holders. The computer and the software will be the most important part of the car, and they are going to keep getting better, as they always do, as your phones do, everything else does. Here's a picture of an ad for an electric car from 100 years ago. That's the speed of change in the industrial world. On the left, a smartphone. Steve Jobs was introducing this one about 10 years ago. Every one of you in this room has something like this in your pocket today, don't you? And you had it in your pocket 5 years ago. That's the pace of change from the computer industry. I don't need to tell this crowd that, but the industrial world needs to learn it. And if you don't think it can happen to cars because they're not phones, when the horse and buggy went away from the car, that happened in just 2 years. That industry disappeared. So what's happening is 2 different philosophies from the different styles of companies. The car companies are doing what you'd expect. They're very good at making cars. So they take cars and they put computers in them to make them better. It's a perfectly reasonable strategy. But the high-tech companies are saying, let's take a computer and put wheels on it and see what happens. Now, it's the same target, but it's 2 different paces of innovation, 2 different styles of innovation, and I think you can guess which one I think is going to win. That means a very different car in the future. I think we'll see the most common car of the future match the most common trip of both the future and the present, which is alone and across town, which means a kind of small car. Well, I do see them here in Amsterdam, but you don't see them in a lot of places. Electric vehicles with just a few hundred parts, not tens of thousands, with few controls, simple vehicles, no dashboard, places to work in or live in, not things to drive, and many, many more types. The future of the car is very different from today, although we'll make a lot of them. Now let's talk about our cities. Our cities today, not right in the downtowns, but in the medium density areas, are full of these things, parking lots. Well, self-driving cars don't need these. If they're taxis, they drop you off and they go pick up someone else. And if they're yours, they don't have to wait where they dropped you off. They can go and find something a little more efficiently a few kilometers away. So we're going to find these things emptying out. We're going to turn parking lots into parks. Okay, I know it's really condo towers, but I like to dream that it's parks. But there's going to be a real estate bonanza because of this that we've not seen in urban spaces for a long time. In fact, if you think about real estate, you understand that the joke they make in that industry is that the value of real estate comes from three things: the location, the location, and the location. The meaning of location is about to change. The meaning of distance is about to change, and that will re-architect our cities. It happened before. The cities of the 20th century were re-architected by the car, and of the 19th century by the tram. Well, the 21st century will see this happen again, and all the values of real estate are up for grabs as well, if I haven't given you enough industries. I also want to tell you about perhaps the most important form of Nederlander transportation. Is it bad news for this? And only here would you get a picture like this, by the way. But why are these damn things so heavy? Can anyone explain that to me? Because they just seem, and the locks weigh more than the damn bicycles. The bicycle may not be doomed because of this, because in the present, when you want to drive a car somewhere, you have to continue the trip in your car. But when cars become something you can just use on demand, you can say, I'm going to ride for a few kilometers in a car, then I'm going to switch to a bicycle because traffic is getting heavy, or I'll ride until I'm tired, and I'll pick a button on my phone and a car will come and stop me and get me and the bicycle, or the next leg will be in a tram, and so on and so on. You'll be able to mix and match your transportation between car, tram, bicycle, walking, as you wish, to meet your own needs and your own exercise needs and the weather. So it's actually, I think, going to be pretty good news even for that form of transportation. Now, I've talked about carrying people for this whole talk, but let me tell you about the potential to do something else. Now, around the world, the Italians have managed to make one product, which is the most valuable product in the world, because no matter where you are, and no matter when it is, you can get it in 30 minutes or less, right? What about robots that carry not people but cargo and can bring you anything in 30 minutes, not just a pizza? I'm working with a company now in Estonia, and we are building delivery robots. These are small robots that actually run on the sidewalk, and they're about the size of a cooler, and they're going to be able to bring you anything in 30 minutes for less than €1, not just a pizza. It's easier than carrying people because you can't kill a pizza. Right? So the safety problems, you can ruin a pizza, but you can't kill a pizza. And so the safety problems are not nearly as complex, so we can get this out there sooner. Well, this means that goods will be able to flow like data. In fact, I've come up with a name for it. I call it the Internet of Things. I don't know if that's going to catch on. But imagine this. You may not even need to own stuff if things can come to you in 30 minutes that you want to hire. So the ability to change retailing and delivery and food and cooking, all of these things, again, will be subject to what robots are going to do for us. In fact, this is a list of a dozen different industries, and I've named several of them in the last few minutes, that I think will see big changes to it. Automotive and energy and so on we told you about, but let me throw in a couple of others. Transit and airports. Airports are just the boundary, after all, between ground transportation and air transportation, although at Schiphol it seems they want to keep you healthy, so they make you walk 2 kilometers from your gate. You're not going to have to do that in the future, actually, when the robots are there, and public transit will switch from being these fixed routes and fixed schedules and large vehicles to medium-sized vehicles that just go ad hoc from where people are to where people want to go, like Uber Pool, but done on a larger scale. Even media will change. The average car owner spends 1.1 hours a day in their vehicle. This will become time that they can work or consume media or do email. We're going to see so many aspects of our life change, and it goes down the scale. So this is something akin to a moonshot. Singularity University, that's our favorite phrase, the moonshot. And of course, the real moonshot was started by this man, John F. Kennedy. So I'm going to butcher his words and say this. This nation should set itself the goal, before this decade is out, of a computer driving a man to lunch at noon and returning him safely to work. Okay, maybe not a good idea to have a Canadian do an impression of Kennedy to a Dutch audience. But let me steal something else from John F. Kennedy that I like even more. He said some projects are worth doing not just because they're easy, but because they're hard. And this is one of those projects. A few years ago, everyone swore it was complete science fiction we wouldn't see until 2050s, but that's not true. Brilliant teams are working on it. They're going to make it happen. They are making it happening. They are succeeding, and they are going to change the world. Thank you very much.